When a man goes hiking in Colorado, he has no idea his next step is going to take him to the border of time itself. And then we travel to South Carolina to take a look at a family who's living in a old, but not too old, house. You'd think a house built in the past 20 years wouldn't have many ghosts attached to it. Well, you'd be wrong, because this family knows that standing outside in the darkness, a creature is watching their every move. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a ton of stuff to cover today, so first off, running into Dead Rabbit Command at full speed. Everyone give it up for one of our legacy Patreon supporters, Matthias Gamara. Woohoo, yeah! Wee, yeah! He's doing jumping jacks. He's flipping around, doing all sorts of... It's kind of bragging at a certain point, right? You just walk in like everyone else. Matthias, you're going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially, I totally understand. I really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. Matthias, let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the Bunny Bus, this brand new vehicle we have. We're going to all hop on board. Hope you got on your little bus outfit, Matthias, as you're going to drive us all the way. It's the least glamorous of all of our vehicles. We have a hovercraft, a rocket ship, a helicopter. And then we have a city bus that we just painted Dead Rabbit Radio on the side of. Matthias, drive us all the way out of Dead Rabbit Command. We're headed out to Colorado. Psst. All aboard. Sound for the next 10 minutes, the sound of people getting on the bus. Shut the door. We're all on the bunny bus. Time slip week concludes today. It's not a real week, it's only a couple days, but I didn't even plan to do a week to begin with. Just stories kept carrying over. And they've all, in a way, been building up to this. I don't want to oversell this one because previous episodes we had a guy transported back to medieval Europe getting involved in a fist fight, and then yesterday we had a guy teleported into a bombing raid during World War I or II, or possibly III, right? Maybe the future. We've talked about time slips of all sorts this week. This story is interesting on a different level. While still involving a time slip, it involves it from a different perspective. But if you didn't listen to those last two episodes, it's not really gonna... This episode, you should be able to follow it. Because really, when we're talking about time slips, in brief, it's the idea of moving from the time you are supposed to be in, i.e. right now, you turn the corner, all of a sudden you're in medieval France on top of a castle, fighting a guy. It's one thing, you're like, I did expect to get into a fight. I'm a professional boxer walking into the ring, but I didn't expect to be on top of a castle all of a sudden. Well, let's get into this time slip. We're headed to Colorado. Specifically, we're headed to Rocky Mountain National Park. And even more specific than that, we're walking down the Sonolcucld Creek Trail. Walking around, got our hiking boots on, big sticks. Walking around, big walking stick, backpack, hat, little stylish cap. Keep the sun out of our eyes. If you're familiar with this area, you've probably been there. You've probably been like, hey guys, you know what? Today's super boring. You're a prison guard, there's a riot going on. You're like, this is kind of boring. Let's go for a hike. This place may be popular. I'm assuming if it has a name. I don't think, obviously enough people walk down it and someone goes, we should name it and put it on a map. Because there's trails everywhere that aren't named. If you're like walking to the grocery store and you see like a dirt path leading up a hill, and it's kind of like a shortcut to the grocery store, but you have to walk up like a 90-degree angle. You're like, I'd rather take the long and not life-threatening way to Safeway. You're walking, that trail is not named. If you got a map of your town, it's not like Dead Man's Gulch or anything like that. It's just a trail. Even though enough people took it to wear it out so it's a little dirt trail, it's not named. Maybe like the kids in the area have named it like Daredevil Pass. But it's not on a map. If enough people are walking down Sonolcucld Creek Trail, it's probably pretty popular. What I'm saying is if you lived in the area, you've probably been on it. You're like shaking your head. You're like, no, Jason. Rocky Mountain National Park is quite large. They're like, I go there all the time. I have no idea what trail you're talking about. Anyways, we're about to meet this guy. He didn't give his name. We're going to call him Jonathan. He's out walking down this trail all alone. A nice solitary hike. On a clear day, he's headed southeast. So he pulls out his little compass and he's looking at it and he goes, yep, keep going the opposite way of the arrow. And surely I'll find what I'm looking for. He's walking southeast. Well, suddenly, he senses a change in the area. Everything seems to become still. He says there are no sounds of life anymore. Where I may have once heard a blue jay soaring through the air, a squirrel hiding his nuts, or a rattlesnake hiding in the bushes, I don't hear any of that now. I hear no signs of life. But it's not just that. I also no longer hear the wind. The majestic atmospheric pressure moving past my ears. Where did it go? That's the weirdest description for wind possible, but where did it go? I can't hear the wind, and not only can he no longer hear any animals, not a fly nor a buzzard, he also can't hear the wind, and this is a really interesting detail Jonathan added. He goes, can't hear animals, can't hear the wind. He also said that he can no longer even smell the scents of the outside world. He said reality itself felt muted. At that point, Jonathan reaches into his pocket and pulls out his phone, and he sees the time is 3:45 p.m. I don't specifically know why he pulled his phone out when he did, but he does check the time, it's 3:45. He looks around at this point, and while before, even though he couldn't hear things or smell them, he could see the natural world all around him now, he notices that he's surrounded by this weird fog. And at this point, I think his brain is still thinking this is natural. This is not something paranormal that is going on. It's just really weird. But I can walk through this fog. A monster's not going to get me. I'm not going to get zapped to an alien planet or anything like that. He begins to walk through the fog. And what he realizes is as he's moving, and he doesn't say how thick the fog is. I don't know if it was like from the mist. It was impenetrable. Could have just been a little misty. But he's walking through the fog, and he said, as I'm moving through the fog, I still cannot hear anything. I still cannot smell the outside world. Something is sanitizing the environment around me, and as I'm moving, it is keeping me in this invisible bubble. My senses are being dulled. He's moving through his senses being dulled, or has something happened to the world, I guess would be the question we're asking. But at this point, he's just continuing to walk through this fog. And he goes, I walked through it for probably, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And then something just kind of struck Jonathan. And he looks up, and he sees that in the sky now, the fog is not there. He can actually look up and see the clear sky, the clear Colorado sky. But what's going on is the clouds are moving rapidly across the sky. He said, listen, when I went out hiking, I knew that there was no storm in the forecast. Doesn't mean that a freak storm couldn't happen, but one wasn't planned by any means. And this is what it kind of seemed like. He said these clouds were very low and they were just flying overhead, not making any noise. And this is really when I think his brain starts to kick in that this has to be some sort of supernatural event. Because while he looks up and goes, that's weird, there wasn't supposed to be a storm. He's starting to kind of put two and two together, and his brain clicks and says, you know what this looks like, Jonathan? This looks like you're watching a time-lapse video. If someone pointed a camera at the sky, recorded a day's worth of clouds, and then played it at fast forward, this is what it would look like. And that's not a natural event by any means. It's not a storm. There's something going on. And as he's realizing this, he feels a loud, deep rumble from underneath his feet. Really from within the earth itself. This isn't a surface level quake. It's this groan. It's this rumble from deep down into the planet. And then a crack, as loud as thunder, pierces the sky. The clouds begin to slow down. But now the edges of these clouds had a pink, purplish tinge to them. At this point, Jonathan is speed walking through the fog. He realizes that this is not natural. Something's going on. It is beyond his ability to comprehend. The only thing he can possibly hope for is if there's a way to escape this. He doesn't know what it is, but that fight or flight mechanism has finally kicked in for him. He knows. Deep within his gut, he knows that something really, really bad's about to happen to him. And he's walking as fast as he can through this fog when all of a sudden there's a flash of light. Another thunderous crack echoes through the skyscape. At that point, Jonathan feels the cold dusk breeze brush against his cheek. The sound of life returns. He hears it all around him. But what he's hearing is crickets. It's a little bit darker than when it was when the fog appeared. He pulls out his phone. 6:30 p.m. He says, all in all, when I look back on this, he posted this online underneath the name Spiral Venom, and he said, all in all, if I felt it only took 15 minutes. 15, 20 minutes tops. Definitely not a couple hours. Threw him off, and, obviously he posted this online. People are saying time slip, and it would be a unique version of the time slip because he's basically within this bubble, and he's watching time move by. Some people say he was abducted, which is another reason, obviously with aliens, we look at lost time, people losing hours of their day or night. To them, it only feels like 5 minutes. They've been gone for 5 hours. And also having their memories wiped, not knowing what happened during that time period. It could be alien. This probably is more like a flaw in reality. You can go hike this trail if you want. If you're local, go check it out. Go see if you too can fly through time. But when I was reading this story, I go, it's possible that you have to wonder about how many people don't get out of there. Who don't pick up on the warning signs. Because there's not just fight or flight. There's fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze is a really troublesome one. When your brain, they've done huge studies on this, when your brain is confronted with a life or death decision, you don't do anything. And these are the people who die in cruise ships, they just drown. They just stand there. It's weird. It's weird to think about. But they do. And they put everyone else in jeopardy because other people are trying to save them. I'll put that article in the show notes. I read about that a while ago. We talked about it before on the show. And here's the thing. Let's say you went hiking in the woods or in the canyon or wherever, and you got caught in one of these time slips. And you don't get out. The evidence of this could be everywhere. Because here's the interesting thing. Let's say that you go missing. Search parties come looking for you. They're searching the area you were hiking in, but the problem is they're searching in the present day. They're searching now. They don't have the ability to search in the future. Or even in the past, depending on which way this time slip goes. But let's say that you go missing and they find you in a week or two. No, let's give it a little bit more. And eventually, they have to call off the search. Let's go ahead now 2 or 3 months, and they find your remains. We always see that in the newspaper. The remains were found of this hiker. The remains were found of these people who were out camping, and they went missing. No foul play, but we found their remains. If you came out and you found a pile of bones that, let's say, had been aged 70 years, you'd been stuck in this time slip, and you starved to death. You're just stuck here, and time's propelling you forward, and you get dehydrated, you starve to death, you can't break free. It's extremely painful. You're crying out for help, but no one can hear you. You don't exist in the modern time. And when the time slip is done, you don't move out of it like he was trying to get out of it. It's done. It would deposit your remains probably in the same area where you went missing or nearby if you did move a little bit. And so that's when they'd be like, wait, we've already searched that area. That's so weird. We found this pile of bones, and dental records show that it belongs to this person that went missing. Here's the thing. If the police and the authorities, the feds, FBI, they do not care about spooky stuff. It's all about paperwork and getting cases closed. And I'll tell you this right now. If someone went missing today and their body was found 3 months from now and it was a pile of bones, and they know it's you because they match the teeth. They 100% know that it's you. The clothing around kind of bears, it's kind of ripped up. It looks like scavengers got it, but there's enough. A ring still attached to a finger, whatever. A bony finger. They take the remains back, and if a coroner's looking at those bones, and they're really looking at their bones, they're really looking at these bones, they're really analyzing them, they know how to do their job, and that coroner says, you know what's really weird? These bones look like they've been sitting out there for probably 50 years. I mean, we know it's the bones of this missing hiker, but it's weird. I've never seen anything like it. These bones look like they're 50 years old. There is not a cop in the world who's going to put that in the police report. There's not a coroner in the world who is going to put on the death certificate, died of old age. Cops, authorities, they see weird stuff all the time. And the second you put it down on a piece of paper, your career is shot. People are going to start calling you Mulder, which to us is a compliment. But if you actually are a law enforcement officer, you look like a weirdo. You're going to be treated like a weirdo. No one wants a weirdo having their back. No one wants to drive in a patrol car with someone who believes in space aliens or time slips. You want someone who doesn't hesitate when you're getting shot at to shoot back at people. I'm positive it happens all of the time. Because if this paranormal stuff is real, and I do believe it's real, there are people interacting with it all the time. And I think a lot of paranormal activity, outside of ghosts aren't particularly violent, but you have cops going into houses full of tons of negative energy. Houses where people have been killed all the time. Recently killed, or a drug house where someone was killed, 5 years ago, brutally shot in the basement. They've never found the body. It's buried down there. A cop goes into that house to serve a warrant. You're going to tell me he's never seen a ghost? That a cop's going into all of these buildings and these houses where these crimes have taken place, either recent or months, years past, violent crimes, unsolved crimes? You're telling me a cop's never seen a ghost? I'm telling you the cop would not put that in the police report. They would not say, I found the drugs because a ghost of a little girl showed up and says, they killed me, put them away. Here's where they hid all their meth. The cop's just going to be like, yeah, I found the meth. The cop's just going to be like, yeah, I tripped, punched a hole through a wall, found the meth. I wonder how many times, because we hear that so often in these missing people stories. Hey, we already searched that area. We searched that area, and here we found them. If you got, and I'm using exaggeration, turning into bones. If you got sucked into a time slip, you couldn't get out, you die. For you, it felt like a year. You're dead by then, right? You starve to death, you're dehydrated, you die in the first couple days. But to you, it feels like a year. Your bones are deposited, or just your rotting corpse is deposited in this area where they've already checked. If anything is strange about that corpse, they will not reveal it. Natural death, move on to the next case. This could happen. This could be happening. This could be one of the reasons, like a missing 411 type of thing, why we find bodies after these areas have already been searched. Really, the skeptical answer, and we'll move on after that. These first segments are getting a lot longer, which I like this stuff. I hope you guys are fine. I just know these opening segments are turning out to be like 20 minutes themselves, 25 minutes. I think I'll put my skeptic hat on, because I do see all these cases where someone goes missing, and then when they find the body, it's somewhere that they've already searched. And could be a killer putting the body there on purpose. It could be a time slip. I think a lot of times it's just people who aren't trained to comb an area working that particular part of the grid. Or you're just having a traffic cop come out, or a volunteer even, someone who's not in law enforcement at all. They're told to go through this area and they search it. Because a lot of these search areas are quite large when they're looking for someone. So that's a skeptical answer, that they do really just miss the body the first time they check it. But it could be a time slip. Could be all sorts of things. But the terrifying look at a time slip from the inside. Watching time whistle by. Knowing that if you don't get out of this, no one's ever going to see you alive again. Not only that, no one will ever truly know how you died. They would just find a decaying body, or maybe just a pile of bones. Or maybe less. Maybe you're in this time lapse for so long you turn to dust, and they never find any proof. They never truly know what happened to you out on that hike, walking down a trail in Colorado. These first segments are becoming so long. And again, I don't mind it. I think there's all great stories, but I don't know if I have enough time for the Creature in the Darkness. Let me take a look here and see if I have a shorter story. Matthias, let's go ahead and toss you the keys of the Carpenter copter. We are leaving behind Colorado. Fly us all the way out to Mexico. We're in Mexico. Specifically, we're hanging out in Mexico City in a neighborhood. I guess this is like a suburb of Mexico City called Unidad San Juan de Aragon. So, like the dude from Lord of the Rings, there's a town named after you in Mexico. It's pretty dope if you think about it. There's not like a town in America called Beetlejuice. Oh, you're like, Jason, you complain about your episodes being too long. Just shut up. Tell the story. This story's a little depressing, so this wasn't the story I had planned, so give me a second. It's not like an American city. No, I'm just joking. I'm done with that stupid thing. We're in Mexico City. We're about to meet this young boy named Sergio Bayardi Porta. He's about 13, 14 years old. He's just starting off his teenage life. It's March 1977. And Sergio is writing this letter out to his mom. He grabs his pencil and puts down a piece of binder paper. Writing this out. He tells his mom something that happened to him. He said, one day, I was visited by aliens. Now, I know a lot of people think aliens aren't real, that it's just some sci-fi dream, but Mom, I saw this UFO full of space aliens, and they told me that they needed my help. Me, Sergio. They telepathically told me about their planet, Sonolcucld, and how it was in desperate need. And only I could help them. Now, Sergio was a huge fan of the paranormal, of sci-fi. He absolutely loved this. It was his dream come true. Who would have thought, out of all of the people on the planet, these aliens would come to him? A boy who believed in them, and not only believed in them, wanted to be visited by them. He said that these aliens asked me to write a letter. And in this letter, they told me a secret. They're talking to me telepathically, and I'm transcribing what they're telling me to write. He goes, Mom, they told me a secret that is so dangerous that if it was made public, the world would descend into anarchy. Nothing would be the same. These words that I was told to print on paper by these aliens, if I showed that to people, it would destroy them. It would destroy everything. Sergio said these aliens told him the secret that, if revealed, would cause every religion to simply crumble away. And maybe you like that. Maybe you don't like religion. Well, not only would it do that, it would also cause people to begin running through the streets murdering each other. And once they ran out of people to murder in their immediate vicinity, they would begin killing themselves. He said the reason why this letter would make them do that, the reason why this secret that these aliens had him transcribed would cause people to abandon all religion, to begin murdering each other, and then begin murdering themselves. He said because if you knew the secret, it would be the only reasonable course of action. If you knew what this note said, if you knew the truth, there would be nothing else to do but murder and then die. He said humanity would realize once and for all that once they die, individually or as a species, they are nothing but a whisper of a memory of a man who died long ago. There's nothing. You would realize, if you knew the secret that these aliens told me, that truly no one leaves anything behind. What is a whisper of a memory worth? The secret, he says, is that damaging, that it would just break your mind. Talk about a cognitohazard. We were talking about those earlier this week. Basically, this would be the true despair code. If you read this, you would say, what's the point? And the secret isn't that nothing matters. That's not the secret. I mean, Metallica figured that out a long time ago. The secret would cause you to realize nothing matters, but that's not the secret itself. He goes, I can't let this note get out. They had me transcribe it, but I can't reveal it. But as he's writing this letter to his mom, he's telling her about what he knows. Sergio's writing this letter to his mother, where he's talking about the secret. Doesn't reveal it to her either. He's talking about the alien communication. He says, Mom, I want to let you know that the aliens have called me to leave Earth. They have let me know that they are coming here again to pick me up. and I will be leaving Earth soon, and I will go to Sonolcucld. He tells her that while he loves her, while he loves life on Earth, that she shouldn't be sad for him. He's going to be happy with the aliens. Don't be sad. Everything's going to be okay. His note ends with, quote, "Burn this letter after you read it. I love you, Sergio." March 17th, 1977, at 8 a.m., Sergio's mother hears a gunshot echo through their house. She runs into her children's bedroom and she sees Sergio profusely bleeding from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to his chest, while his two younger siblings, who were in the room when he killed himself, are hysterically sobbing. They can't even comprehend what they just saw their big brother do. Crazy alien, like what is this story? I found this on thinkaboutitdocs.com. This was a really interesting journey. Thinkaboutitdocs.com is my favorite UFO resource. They had a very small entry for this, where basically they talk about this young man who wrote a suicide note. And it said, in thinkaboutitdocs.com, they said, unfortunately, the only way to reach this improbable destination was by committing suicide. I was like, okay, let's see if we can find some more information on it. And sure enough, I was able to find a news article. Back in 2014, kind of going into more detail with this story, they also have the fully translated letter of Sergio. All of these are going to be in the show notes. It's a fascinating story, though it's absolutely tragic. This is the thing you worry about when people are getting into the world of the paranormal. It's such an amazing topic to explore, but when people take it too seriously. But is that what this is? This is a really interesting question, and I mean, I could go on literally for probably another hour talking about this, and I'm going to try to do it tastefully. We have a teenage boy who killed himself, shot himself. He says he did it because aliens told him to. He had to do this as a way to go hang out with aliens. There's a very famous story, we covered this a long time ago on the podcast, that's kind of similar, about a guy who said that aliens had made contact with him, and then he went missing. I think if I might be getting my stories confused, but this guy, he really loved aliens. He kept talking about them abducting him, and then he went missing. And that's where it's a very famous UFO story. That's where the story normally ends. On Dead Rabbit Radio, we kept pursuing it, kept looking into it. And it turns out that a couple decades later, I believe they found his bones in the middle of the woods in his car, and he'd blown himself up with dynamite. And whether or not he thought that dynamite, by killing himself, he was going to ascend to the aliens, or he wanted to create this story about him going away with aliens, and when that didn't happen, instead of looking foolish, he drove into the middle of nowhere and blew himself up. So he didn't have to go back and admit that the aliens weren't real, and people would always wonder. There's that other very famous story, Valentech might be his name, about, this was in Australia, the guy who was flying the plane, he loved UFOs, he loved aliens. He's flying the plane, and he said that a UFO was flying overhead, and it was starting to scrape against his jet, his plane, and then he disappeared. That's another I'll put all this in the show notes, a very famous UFO story. I might have the name wrong, but that was another story we kept looking into, and the belief is now that he was a planned suicide. again, he wanted to be a legend. I mean, obviously, like, if you're killing yourself in these type of circumstances, there's a mental health issue going on as well. But to plan this suicide, we have two of them, and this third one here. But this third one, I mean, it's absolutely atrocious doing it to begin with, but then doing it in front of your younger siblings, and I mean, it's just heartbreaking all around. This wasn't on the story. You're like, Jason, wow, super depressing. So it was not the story I planned to do. I was going to do something about a monster, but it takes too long. I'll save it for tomorrow. But tragic story all around. This one wasn't a mystery, though. He believed, apparently. I couldn't find, when I was reading his suicide note, the one he wrote for his mom, I did not see where he says, I need to kill myself to go to another planet. I did not get that from the letter. Apparently, this letter was originally published in March 18th, 1977, in a newspaper called Ovaciones. It is a general newspaper in Mexico. If an alien came to you and told you, this is an interesting question, this is an interesting thought experiment, and I'm going to say this, the alien is not tricking you in any sort of way. It is not a demon in disguise. There is no monkey paws curse or anything like that. The alien is being completely authentic. Everything they're saying is true. So we're taking all that off the table. We've done these thought experiments before, and people go, well, what if no, we're doing, the alien is 100% honest. An alien comes to you and says, listen, we're having some trouble on my home planet. We've identified 1,500 humans that we need, and we really need all of you to come back to our home planet and help us. You will not be a slave. This is not a trick. You have the special genetic code and the knowledge, the empathy, the just personality, everything that makes up you, both genetically and mentally and spiritually. You are one of a very select group of people, of really living beings anywhere in the universe that you can help save our race. But we need all of you to do it. We need you back on our home planet now. And the only way, it's a tough one, right? The only way that we can travel as quickly as we need to do, us aliens, even though we have a physical form, our vehicles, it is a technology that we are not physical on. We have to ascend to the astral plane. In short, you got to kill yourself now. We can make it as painless as possible, but we need you to die in the next 5 minutes. If not everyone does it, our civilization. You know what? Let's skip the 1,500. Let's skip that. Let's just say it's you. I didn't want you to be the nobody. I didn't want you, just one person. But let's say the 1,500. That makes it more difficult to conceptualize, because you can go, I'm sure they'll figure it out. With 1,499 deaths, aliens come to you and they say, you are the only person who can save our race. This is not a trick. This is not some sort of saw trap, intergalactic style, nothing. We've identified you as the singular person in the universe who has the right genetic makeup, the right knowledge, the right spirit inside of you, all of it. But you need to die in the next 5 minutes to make this work. If you do not die in the next 5 minutes, billions of people, of my brothers on our planet, will be wiped out in the coming months. We need to get you on this ship now so we can get there to stop that. Do you kill yourself? And logically, you would say, no, this is a hypothetical situation. I can't trust this alien who is in my house, right? If you can't trust anyone, it's a space alien. But in this scenario, you know 100% this is not a trick. You know 100% that you do have to kill yourself to go to this planet to save billions. And the thing that you can look at is you go, I may not. If I say no, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow anyways. I could live to be 80. I could die tomorrow. And then this whole race gets wiped out anyways. If I don't kill myself now to go over there. Like, what do you do? Now, what's funny, Sergio wasn't faced with this. Sergio was told that they needed his help with the planet. There was not a deadline. Sergio, he either made the whole thing up. I don't think he made the whole thing up. I think he was either delusional. I don't think he was trying to trick his mom. I think he either thought he saw this stuff or he did truly see these aliens. I can't think of an alien race, though, as evil as some of them are, if you look at things like reptilians or the conformers. I've never come across an alien race that wants you to kill yourself. That's pretty sinister. And targeting this teenage boy. So, but, in the world of the paranormal, we do have to say this story is possible. We don't know for 100% that it happened. At least the way that he tells it. Apparently, Sergio is a real kid. I was able to find a surprising amount of backup information for this story. But again, stuff can be made up. And stuff can be made up by journalists or even made up by Sergio. And this was some weird delusion he was going through. But what would you do if aliens presented that to you and no tricks? I know I'm going to see a bunch of YouTube comments saying I don't trust aliens. The only good alien is a dead alien. I'm from Buenos Aires and I say kill them all. I know we're going to see a bunch of these statements, but there is not a trick. Do you? Basically, I don't know why I'm saying fill up my YouTube comments about how much you want to kill yourself. It's almost like I am playing a chicken with YouTube every week at this point. I'm just super curious because here's the thing. I'll give you my answer. No. I couldn't do it. It's not necessarily that I don't see my single life more valuable than the alien race that's billions strong. To me, this is a hypothetical question that's almost too hard for me to conceptualize. But if I really had to think about it, if my choice was I could kill myself, and I knew, again, because your brain does say it's a trick. I get why people leave those comments in my YouTube thing saying, I just don't trust aliens. I get our brains are going, it's a trick. I would say, here's the thing, I would love to go on a space alien adventure. I would love to be on an alien battlefield watching my buddies get pulverized by plasma cannons wielded by cyborg dinosaurs, and I'm like pissing my pants because I'm afraid I'm going to die next. Sounds fun. Sounds super fun. But eventually, I don't die, and I survive battle after battle. Right, because if I died in the first battle, then I got bigger worries. I'm just like floating around in an alien heaven. I'm like, this isn't what they told me was going to happen. Being on a space adventure would be awesome. It's the killing myself to do it is the part that it's really hard for me to conceptualize. I could even say, if someone goes, hey, Jason, this country's about to get invaded and millions of people are going to be killed. But however, the guy who wants to invade that country says, I will not invade this country if Jason Carpenter kills himself. And it's not a trick. I will sign a peace treaty with this country for the next 1,000 years. No bullets nor bombs will fall on that country if Jason kills himself. You got 5 minutes to decide. I couldn't do it. My self-preservation... It's funny, I was trying to figure out the right word. My instinct for self-preservation is too high. If I was trapped in a situation and I had to call down an artillery strike on my position to kill a bunch of guys, enemy troops who were coming towards me, I'm dead anyways, because they're going to get me. So rain hell. Ruin all of their family's Christmas as well. Because my mom's going to miss me, so I'm going to make sure someone misses all those other people that are headed towards me. I have no qualms doing that. At all. There's going to be a lot of sad moms. But if my death was hypothetical in the sense that I'm just like sitting here recording this podcast and aliens appeared or a dictator appeared and they gave me this ultimatum, my self-preservation is too strong, I would say. Sorry to my space brothers. Fight valiantly. A good death is its own reward. And dictator guy, maybe just don't invade that country. Will that work? And he's like, nope, you need to kill yourself. I was like, well, I'm not killing myself. And that's where it is. It's an interesting story. I mean, it's a tragic one, right? We have this kid who killed himself. If the aliens asked him to do that, then that's cruel. And it would be unusual in an already very unusual field of study, UFOlogy. If it was delusional and he was just imagining all that stuff, it's just tragic. It's a tragic story. But it is an interesting... It wasn't hypothetical for this family. That's why I was like, it's kind of might be kind of tasteless. It wasn't hypothetical for them, but I think it's an interesting question for us because we do really love stories of the paranormal. And I think, in general, people who love the paranormal, and definitely people who listen to the show, because I interact with you guys all the time, we're all pretty... we like stuff that's a little... I don't know if I want to say on the edge or anything like that, but I mean, like, we're willing to take chances. If that makes sense. You're listening to the weirdest paranormal podcast that's ever been created. Nothing else is out there like this. Covering these weird stories and then going on these bizarre, like, meta explorations of ghosts. Like, I'm so glad we have the community we have for this show, but I think I would really be interested in hearing your guys' feedback. What would you do? How would you guys... And there's no workaround. You can't be like, what if I just go into a coma? What if I'm near death? I'm really curious to find out how many of you guys want to kill yourself. This should also be a notice that if I ever do, quote-unquote, kill myself, it was 100% not me. I know a lot of people say that. I know John McAfee said that. I know a lot of people who end up killing themselves say that. But let this episode be a testament to my unease and adamant not killing myself. Again, unless I'm being surrounded by enemies, and then all bets are off. Then you just imagine me to kill myself all the time, just to ruin everyone else's days. I'll go out in the biggest blaze of glory. But only in that very specific situation. If you find me drowned in a bathtub, or I was about to start listing out different ways to kill yourself. I think YouTube already has banned this episode by now, so we'll just end it where I say deadrabbitradio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at facebook.com/deadrabbitradio. TikTok is @deadrabbitradio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.